For question 1A, we prepare the overhead analysis sheet using the cost allocation and apportionment. As the overhead that we given, we decide the suitable basis of apportionment to allocate the cost in each department. As we given rent and rates, the basis of apportionment that we decide is floor area. Supervision cost, the basis is number of employees. The maintenance cost, the basis is maintenance hour. Electricity, the basis of apportionment is floor area. And lastly, the insurance on machinery, the basis of apportionment is the machine value. And after we allocate all the overhead costs in each department, we calculate the total overhead for each department. After calculating the total overhead for each department, we reapportion 5 departments using the repeated distribution method. As in this stage, our aim is to make sure the overhead costs for service cost center, which are store and canteen, becoming 0 or less than 1 ringgit. For part 1B, we calculate the overhead absorption rate (OAR) using the basis that being decided in the question. For assembly department, we calculate OAR using the machine hour as our basis. We calculate by using the total overhead after the apportionment, 123,212 ringgit 70 divided by 2,000, we get RM 61 ringgit 61 cents per machine hour. For machining department, we calculate by using the total overhead after the apportionment, 134,785 ringgit 92 cents divided by 1,550, we get RM 86 ringgit 96 cents per machine hour. Lastly, for finishing department, we use direct labor hour as our basis. And in calculating the OAR, we using the total overhead after reapportionment, RM 83,501 ringgit and 80 cents divided by 650, we get RM 128 ringgit 46 cents per direct labor hour. For part 1C, we need to determine the under or over absorption of overhead for all the production center. For the first department, which is assembly department, we calculate the cost absorption using the OAR that we calculate from the previous question, which is RM 61 ringgit 61 cent multiplied by the actual machine hour, which is 1,020, total RM 62,842 ringgit 20 cents. When we compare the total of cost absorption with the actual total overhead that we given, which is RM 207,000, we can conclude that the assembly department is under absorbed by RM 144,157 ringgit 80 cents. For the next department, which is the machining department, we calculate using the OAR, RM 86 ringgit 96 cents multiplied by 2,300 hour from the machine hour, we get the total RM 200,008 ringgit. When we compare with the actual total overhead that been given, RM 162,350, we can conclude that the machining department is overabsorbed by RM 37,658 ringgit. And lastly, for the finishing department, we calculate the cost absorption using the machining OAR, RM 128 ringgit 46 cents multiplied by 750 from the direct labor hour, and we get the total RM 96,345 ringgit. As we compare with the total overhead that been given, RM 178,400, we get that the finishing department is under absorbed by RM 82,055 ringgit.
For question 2 part A, to calculate the overhead cost per unit using traditional absorption costing, we need to find first the overhead absorption rate (OAR), and the formula is total overhead divide total unit of base. For the total overhead, we need to sum up all the annual overhead costs for Modern Co. There are machine setup costs, machine running costs, procurement costs, and the labor costs. So after sum all of it, we will get RM 195,270. As the total unit of base, we will use direct labor hour per unit as the base, and each product, there are spike A, spike B, and spike C, they need to multiple their own direct labor hour per unit with a unit produced, and then sum all of the total, then we will get 6,900 hours. After finding both amount of total overhead and total unit of base, then we can find the total OAR, and we will get 28 ringgit 30 cent per direct labor hour. After finding the total OAR, then we can proceed to calculate the overhead cost per unit. So to find the overhead cost per unit, each product, that are spike A, spike B, spike C, they need to multiply the total OAR, that is 28 ringgit 30 cent, with their own direct labor hour per unit. As the result, spike A will get 2 ringgit 83 cent per unit, spike B will get 4 ringgit 25 cent per unit, and spike C will get 5 ringgit 67 cent per unit. For part B, to calculate the overhead cost per unit using activity-based costing, there are two things that we need to find first. Firstly is the activities, secondly is the cost driver. As for the activity, we will follow the activity that has been set up in the table of the annual overhead cost for Modern Core, followed by the overhead cost. For the cost driver, we need to find the suitable base for each activity. For example, number of production is suitable for machine setup, machine hour per unit is suitable for machine running, number of purchase order is suitable for procurement cost, and lastly, number of delivery to retailer is suitable for delivery. As for the cost driver demanded, we need to sum all of the number from each product based on the cost driver. For example, the cost driver of number of production 1, we need to sum spike A number, that is 16, added by spike B 12, added by spike C 8, and the total we will get 36. This step will be continuously used with the procurement and delivery costs. For the machine running activity, we need to multiply first each machine hour per unit with unit produced, and then we sum all of it and we will get 32,100 hours. We can proceed to calculate the cost driver rate, CDR, and the formula is total overhead for an activity divide total cost driver for an activity. For the activity of machine setup, the cost driver rate is 737 ringgit 50 cent per production 1, and machine running is 2 ringgit 7 cent per machine hour. For the procurement is 510 ringgit 64 cent per purchase order, and lastly delivery cost is 388 ringgit per delivery. The next step to calculate the overhead cost per unit using activity-based costing is the cost driver rate that we just calculated just now need to multiply back with the cost driver for each activity and sum all of it based on each product to get the total overhead. For example, spike A, the total overhead is 58,204 ringgit 36 cent, and spike B 52,175 ringgit 92 cent, and spike C 84,936 ringgit 88 cent. The last step that we need to do is the total overhead need to be divided with the unit produced by each product to find the overhead cost per unit. As a result, the overhead cost per unit that our group get for each product is 3 ringgit 88 cent per unit for spike A, 4 ringgit 35 cent per unit for spike B, and 4 ringgit 72 cent per unit for spike C.
Okay, the activity-based costing ABC, which focus on activities performed to produce products in costing system. ABC assume that activities are responsible for the occurrence of costs, thus create the demand for activities. ABC contains overheads costs as the first rate to the activities in order to produce the products. However, when the ABC was introduced, there have some problems in implementation, which frequently happens. A lot of consideration must be given to overhead costs because they make up a significant amount of the overall cost. A major error would be to focus simply on direct costs. The error or problems in respect of overhead arise from the fact that the amount of overhead has to be estimated and that took before the concept period begins, and that the amount has to be distributed over the various cost units on an estimate basis. Okay, firstly, which is cost allocation. Cost allocation is charging overhead costs directly to particular cost centers where they are incurred. In other words, certain overhead costs can be allocated directly to the cost center. For example, the salary of the workers in the production department can be allocated to the production department cost center. It is unreasonable to share the salary cost over several different cost centers, and overhead can be allocated directly in terms of if overhead cost is arising solely from the existence of the cost centers, and the excess amount of the overhead cost is known. Okay, secondly, which is cost apportionment, which is the process of sharing overheads between departments using suitable basis because these costs are in proportion to the estimated benefit received. This cost which is needed when it is not possible to allocate a cost to a specific cost center. On the other hand, this cost is done because the costs are common costs that need to be shared or apportioned between the cost centers, and these costs cannot be directly identified to each specific cost centers. However, cost apportionment consists of two stages, which is primary cost apportionment that contains all cost centers, and secondary apportionment. Okay, the last one, which is cost absorption, which is the process of including overhead costs to a cost unit by way of absorption rate, or OAR. OAR is to find the amount of overhead to be included in the cost of the jobs, units of production, process, and batches. Additionally, it also can be used to estimate the overhead cost applicable to product. Basically, this type uses the most common methods in cost absorption, consists of the direct labor hour rate, machine hour rate, prime cost percentage rate, direct wages cost percentage rate, and direct materials cost percentage rate.
The first difference between activity-based costing and traditional costing for overhead computation is about the primary focus. For traditional costing, the primary focus is the allocation of overhead costs of production activities, while activity-based costing is using a method of costing that more focus on the activities than to product. The second difference is based on the scope. Traditional costing method can only be used for the absorption of manufacturing overhead, but activity-based costing can be effectively used to allocate manufacturing as well as non-manufacturing overheads. For example, selling, administration, and others. This will make business more accurately allocates manufacturing overheads. The third difference is based on the application. For activity-based costing, it is quite difficult to implement. This is because this method involves selecting a suitable absorption site, and overhead absorption at the same site is complicated, which can cause some problems such as needing more time and effort to do it. Activity-based costing is different with traditional costing, where traditional costing only applies as a single cost driver, which is set for all activities and is straightforward to implement. Traditional costing is less complex than activity-based costing. The fourth difference is based on the management use. The traditional costing can be used into cost figure of statement of profit or loss. The reason is because this method only inculcates product costs, while activity-based costing can only be used for management purpose. The last difference of activity-based costing and traditional costing is based on the effectiveness of operation. Activity-based costing can help in improve our business processes in long term because the method need to investigate deeply into production activities and related costs. Meanwhile, traditional costing does not include the different cost centers, so it becomes quite difficult to management to gather all the information about the production activity.